New Era Cap Company is a headwear manufacturer. New Era was founded in 1920 by German immigrant Enright Koch. By 1922, Enright's New Era Cap Company was producing nearly 60,000 Gatsby-style fashion hats per year. In 1934, New Era launched its first professional baseball cap, which would be their staple for their next 100 years. The first New Era baseball cap was produced for the Cleveland Indians, who bought a home and away version of the hat. In 1954, the 5950 baseball hat was born. The same style hat can be bought in today's world. In 1993, New Era ensured its future when they became the exclusive supplier of on-the-field caps for Major League Baseball teams around the country. Shortly after becoming the exclusive on-the-field hats for Major League Baseball, they also became the official hat for the NFL, starting in 2012. Over the next years, New Era has adopted many different hat styles to fit their customers' needs. One hat that has virtually stayed unchanged is their 5950 fitted hat.
Prior to 2007, the New Era 5950 cap was composed entirely of wool. However, due to what was primarily the demand of athletes, the company decided to revolutionize the cap. They opted to change the cap's composition from wool to 100% made of polyester. This was mainly to make the cap more durable, less prone to shrinkage, and having its shape altered over time and after extensive use. Another benefit is that polyester is more efficient in moisture management than wool, as it possesses a quick drying capability which is imperative to maximising consumer comfort. Further, 2012 saw the addition of UV protecting and infrared light reflecting capabilities added to the material to ensure that the user's health and safety remained a top priority. Now let's look at the polyester. It became immensely popular in the 1990s as it is a warmer, lighter, more hardy, and ultimately more durable than wool. Its uses are very extensive as it is often used in clothing as far wide as astronauts' underwear, deep-sea diving suits, and ear warmers for calves during winter. The materials used in the production of polyester are terephthalic acid and ethylene glycol, both of which are petroleum derivatives or products. Dyes for colour and Teflon are also used to complete the product. Terephthalic acid and ethylene glycol are both byproducts of petroleum or crude oil when processed in oil refineries. Plants that predominantly manufacture terephthalic acid are found largely in India, China, and Belgium. The year 2006 saw the production of 42 million tonnes of it. The production of ethylene glycol has also seen a shift to Asia, and production is also undertaken mainly in India and China. 2007 saw an estimated 17.8 million tonnes of glycine ethanol. Let's quickly examine the petroleum from which these two substances are derived from. Petroleum is a non-renewable energy source found in geological formations deep below the surface of the Earth. Being a fossil fuel, petroleum is formed when large masses of deceased organisms, mainly plankton and algae among other sea animals, are buried underneath rock and are exposed to heat and extreme pressure, over time condensing it into a thick liquid. Although naturally occurring petroleum springs do exist in rare quantities, petroleum is predominantly gathered through oil drilling, which occurs both at land and sea all over the world in colossal quantities. In fact, it is estimated that 88 million barrels of oil are used daily globally. Naturally, this is affecting the world in a negative manner as emissions and pollutants are released into the air, which is detrimental to the ozone layer, this being the major contributor to the phenomena which is global warming. Further, there is a finite amount of fossil fuels on the Earth which are quickly becoming depleted, which means that if we don't find an alternative soon, there will be a global catastrophe. Now that we've examined what goes into the hat itself, let's look at how it is actually constructed. The terephthalic acid and ethanol glycol are combined and mixed into a vat at an approximate 260 to 290 degrees Celsius or 500 to 550 degrees Fahrenheit, forming a new liquid which is the molten polyester. As it cools, it turns into a thick, syrup-like liquid, which is then forced through tiny holes in a metal disc called a spinneret. As these streams of liquid combine with air, they cool, harden, and form strings which are woven together to form into a polyester fleece. Following the production of the fleece, there are a number of steps which need to be undertaken to transform it into the cap. Firstly, sheets of the fleece are placed onto a cutting table, which cuts out shapes which will eventually be the different parts of the cap itself, including the front, middles, back, visor, and undervisor. Following that, the front and back are sewed together, and then the visor is stitched and attached. The seam combining the front and back are then sewed. The sides are then sewed on, forming a crown. The logo, which is usually a team or a superhero symbol, is then designed and manufactured on an embroidery machine, usually requiring a massive 22,000 stitches to complete. The back of it is then glued and attached onto the front of the cap. Further panel stitching is attached all over, reinforcing the cap's shape. A pre-measured strip is then attached to the inside of the cap with the purpose of making the hat a specific size. Then the visor is restitched again for strength. An inner headband is attached inside the cap for the purpose of absorbing sweat, as well as a label documenting the hat's details and specifications. A top stitch is then added to hold the headband and cap together, as well as for decoration purposes. A button is then placed on the top, marking the final major piece of the cap. It is then steamed, cleaned, and a sticker is applied for the finishing touch before it is shipped away to be sold. The manufacturing of 5950 caps was completely done in the USA until 2001, when New Era began outsourcing the production of the hat to China in response to an unprecedented high level of consumer demand, in addition to the cheap labour that could be found there. We were unable to find specific details as to the specific ratio of hats currently constructed in both the US and in China respectively. However, it is interesting to note that many consumers believe the Chinese-made hats to be of diminished quality in comparison to the US-made hat.
On to the next one.
New Era is just like any other company that uses common methods of transportation such as trucks and planes to get their products out of the manufacturing warehouses to retailers and consumers. New Era has 11 company stores, 6 flagship stores, and many more retail locations that sell New Era products around the world. An average delivery consists of 70 to 100 product pieces that could be delivered weekly or bi-weekly through services such as UPS. When New Era decides to use semi-trucks, it may be common and convenient, but it does cause harm to the environment and the population. These trucks are one of the biggest sources of pollution. Diesel soot is a toxic air pollutant linked to human cancer. A new analysis by state and local clean air regulators concludes that more than 125,000 Americans will get cancer from diesel fumes. Big trucks are legally allowed to emit as much pollution as several dozen of today's cars, but many big trucks actually emit as much pollution as 150 cars. But it is not only the semi-trucks who are at fault, but also planes. When New Era transports their 5950 hats to stores abroad, such as Tokyo, Toronto, and London, the exhaust gases from both planes and trucks put carbon dioxide in the air, which also worsens the greenhouse effect.
So, what happens when... Fuck, I already fucked it up, damn.
It doesn't matter, just keep it
Okay,
going.
so what happens to a hat in the final stage of the life cycle? There are a few options that have varying effects towards the environment. Many hats are simply tossed in the garbage. Hats can be stripped to be recycled polyester. Hats can often be collected as a hobby. And some hats are donated to thrift stores. When hats become trash, because our hats are made out of 100% polyester, it is not going to decompose anytime soon. By throwing the hats to the trash, it works its way to the already overflowing landfill to sit there for the next 700 years or so. Man-made fabrics like nylon and polyester are used in many clothing items. Many people are unaware of the effects of throwing out their old polyester items. Because polyester is a synthetic man-made fabric made from ethylene, a byproduct of petroleum, is obviously not good for the environment as it decomposes back into the ground. If you're planning to get rid of your hat, one option could be to recycle material. There are two types of textile recycling: fiber recycling and polymer recycling. Fiber recycling means your garment is shredded back into fibers that are typically blended with new fibers to make a new yarn for new clothing items. Polymer recycling is typically used with polyesters that are shredded and ultimately melted down and turned into plastic pellets that are then respun into new fibers for new polyester applications. Using recycled polyester is great because it has a far smaller impact on the environment, and it means less oil is used to make new products. In the early 1990s, the company Patagonia started creating their products from recycled polyester fabrics and recycled plastic bottles. Over the years, they have removed millions of bottles from landfills and used them in their products. They also have a policy where consumers can send their worn out polyester products back to the store, and they will recycle the fabric to make more products. By recycling the fabric and converting the plastic bottles into polyester thread, they are reducing carbon output by 75%. Because more than 51 billion plastic bottles end up in the landfill every year, there should be no shortage of creating new recycled polyester products. There are many people who love New Era products. New Era is a fast-growing company with many fun and unique hats. Many people choose to hang on to their hats for several years, expanding their collection for years to come. The most popular hats are their traditional baseball hats, but for some collectors, it doesn't stop there. There are lots of different unique New Era hats: the Disney-themed hats, superhero-themed hats, DC Shoe Company hats, Star Wars hats, and many more in just about every color imaginable. A large number of collectors look towards the internet to share their love for the New Era. Website NewEraCapTalk.com has thousands of members who share this special common interest. Here they are able to talk about their collections, they talk about new products, and buy and sell their hats. If you are unable to recycle or collect your worn out hat, donating to a thrift store is always a good option. Many communities have multiple thrift stores. The most recognizable are Goodwill, Salvation Army, Disabled American Veterans, DAV. All of these places accept use clean clothing items.
What do you know? I appreciate it, bro. He asked me to pick one. I said I don't have